I'm going to ask kind of a hot button question.
Oh, not with me.
Okay. What do you do about cliques? Because you said, we talked about community, and you said it's not going to just be us. We're going to invite new people in. How do you deal with that?
So I'm not afraid of a hard conversation.
Okay. I kind of got that from you.
Yeah.
Let's go!
You're listening to the Marked Podcast. This is a podcast for women who are marked by a love for God, His Word, and His people. Friends, we are excited today to welcome someone who has dedicated her life to helping women know and love Jesus, Marian Jordan Ellis.
Yes, Marian is the founder of This Redeemed Life. She's authored actually several books that have encouraged women all over the world, and she's a gifted Bible teacher. She also holds a Master of Arts in Biblical Studies from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, which then gives her that theological training such depth in her teaching.
Totally. We are thrilled to share that Marian has a brand new Bible study out with Lifeway Women on the book of 1st and 2nd Peter. It's called Anchored. And we can't wait for all of you who are listening to dive into that resource and see how it points us to living faithfully in a culture that often feels opposed to our faith.
I actually took a peek into that book
It's a
and
good one.
absolutely loved it.
I know, me too.
Yes. And what I love about her when you hear her speak or when she's teaching is that she really combines this academic foundation, but yet in such a warm and personal way of teaching that you feel like she's sitting across the table from you.
You really do. You really do.
Right.
So we can't wait for you to hear this conversation today with her. So let's get into it with Marian Jordan Ellis. Marian, we're here to talk about community today.
Yeah.
And I know because before we hit record, you were sharing how important it is to you and your life. Will you share that with our listeners?
Yeah. So in many ways, I'm a church girl, and but when I'm talking about the church to the people, to anyone, it's really not a building. It is the body and how God has used the body for me to heal my life. And there's a scene in the Gospels, and you have this moment. It's one of Jesus' beautiful miracles, and you have these friends that are so desperate to get their friend to Jesus that they pull the roof off their house to drop their friend in front of Jesus. And that's what biblical community has done for me.
Really?
And when I first came in the church, I was so lost. I was so in darkness. I was so in the world. And there were women who had prayed me even into the doors of the church.
Yeah.
And I, come to Christ, and I'm just radically redeemed, but still so broken, so unhealed, full of strongholds, full of lies of the enemy. I mean, and I'm like, so wounded I can barely walk, sometimes. And there were women who literally, the spiritual realm, pulled the roof off to bring me to Jesus and walked with me through years of healing. And so biblical community is not, to me, just a good idea. It is so necessary for wholeness, to be known by these women who were able to look at me and say, hey, that's a lie, that's not truth, who were able to say, hey, this is a place that you need to forgive, you need to let go, and to be in friendships with women who loved Jesus enough to bring my broken places to him. And so I'm super passionate about it because, that's what transformed my life. Women who love Jesus.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And because you're so passionate about how important it is in your own life, I'm sure that translates to the women that you are serving in your local women's ministry. You've been involved in local ministry for a very long time. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I started in ministry in my local church. I was teaching Bible study, and then God called me out to be a writer and a speaker, and did a lot of traveling and a lot of, as an evangelist, but I've always been a church girl.
Yeah.
And in the last 10 years, God's had me being the women's minister at my church, Mission City Church in San Antonio, and we have multiple campuses. And so I wear multiple hats. I still do, my traveling and speaking. speaking, but I'm planted in my local church. I lead the women's ministry. I, write the Bible studies there for my local women. And so really everything I do in ministry is birthed out of my local church.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that you say I'm a church girl.
Oh,
I'm
I
a
am
church girl too. I'm going to start saying that.
I am a church girl. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's God's plan A for, the world is his church. And so we have to be. And that's what he's doing in the world.
So how has your experience with your own biblical community, with the women in your community coming to you and your aid and being there for you, how's that overflowed into the women you minister to?
So, I think as our church has grown and, we started, 7-8 years ago, it was me and 20 women. And so, I could look eyeball to eyeball with everybody and teach my Bible study, and I knew them all. But as we've grown to thousands of people, multiple campuses, first of all, I had to multiply myself as having other leaders, but also making sure that what we do in ministry is that we're taking women from the large gathering to smaller groups. And everything we do, our big event is called The Table, because we want women to come in and find a seat at a table where they get to know the Lord and they get to know each other. But then when we have our, regular Bible studies, everyone is with a leader of 8 women who that leader is shepherding them, that leader is following up with them. They're facilitating the fun, making sure that community's happening. Because, when it gets bigger than 20, 25 women, I can't personally be the one that is shepherding them. And so, putting structure in place that every woman is really with someone.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
How do you start that, where you're building that community, instilling? So I know that for you, biblical community is super important in your growth process. And
Right.
And then at a large church, multi-site, right? How does that work? I mean, for those women that are listening going, well, I need a community like that.
Yeah.
How do you do that in a women's ministry in such a large capacity?
It started with just necessity, first of all. And we didn't start out 3 campuses. We started 1. And so really we kind of built the structure that could multiply later, like the Chick-fil-A model. They built their first store and then we kind of modeled after that. But really for me, it was like always knowing that our top priority is solid biblical teaching. We want women to have the transformation process that happens by sitting under the Word. But we don't ever want them just to sit and leave. And so we've always had the structure of those table groups, those small groups. And so starting with the end in mind, our vision is hear the truth and then talk about the truth. Hear the truth and then talk about the truth. So we've always structured our time around having the small groups that follow that. And then from that, we've guided and taught our small group leaders to think like a shepherd, to think like these are the women God has entrusted to me, and I'm going to make sure if they're going through something hard that I've got a team bringing the casserole. If this woman is having a marriage issue, that I know that I've counseled with her and connected her with a pastor, and so we're training the women on that level to really see their job. You're not just, there to ask table questions.
Yeah.
You are the shepherd of this group of women. And for me, it's like, I want to equip women to use their spiritual gifts. And they might not be standing on a platform, but yes, this is a place where they can disciple and shepherd and be part of what God's doing in the community.
I love that because I think about just following up during the week with people that I see on Sunday. I mean, it's kind of a natural form of living in community that when you're anchored in a church for, you said 10 years, you've been there.
Yes.
I mean, the friendships, the relationships they just become real over time.
Right.
You see each other, you're serving together. I love serving with my friends. I think that has probably been one of the best ways for me to form community in my local church is to serve with with other people because you show up together.
Yeah.
You just show up at the same place, same time every week, like-minded, same goal. And it just helps develop
Sweat equity.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
When you sweat together, you bond together. So, and that's the other thing. We tried to give away the ministry as, if we're doing a big event, we want everybody to have a job.
Yeah.
And not just to show up and experience, but be a participant and do something.
So I think that is such a great idea, because how many women listening right now want to go to the event, but they don't have a job and they don't have anybody to sit with. So they just awkwardly come in, and it can be strange. But if hey, I'm supposed to stand at the door and just say hello to people when they come in, or I'm in charge of leading the table, or I am passing out bags of popcorn, whatever the job is, it takes away the awkwardness of being there. Don't you agree?
Right. I'm important. I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I even see my daughter doing that.
Yes.
Like, she wants to wear the kids ministry T-shirt to church because it makes her feel like she's part of something.
Yes.
And I'm like, this starts early in women. I think we're very, tribal, like we want to be part of something that we're working together. And so I think that's just part of who we are. Like, we want to have a big family. We all have a role to play.
Right.
So
I know, it's so true.
Marian, I hear that small group obviously sounds like it's a connecting point for a lot of your women, and there's a big event as well. Are there other ways that you get your women to be connected, and then also community outside of the church, of bringing that community within their own sphere, in terms of evangelism, missions, however, how does that work in with what you're doing right now?
So just at our church, what we do is I kick off each semester with this event we call the table. And because San Antonio has, because it's a military city, it has a lot of people who move in for maybe 2 years and then they're moving. And so we're always trying to have a new front door opportunity where you're not having to wait a year until that women's retreat. You're not having to wait a year until the big next kickoff event. So we're doing those every 3 months so that all the new influx of people that are coming in have an opportunity, a front door to come into the ministry. And so we call that the table. And I host one at every campus. And so, one might be 300 women, one might be 100 women, but it's like, okay, here's who we are. And we intentionally have those table hostesses and everything that your job is to find new people and to make sure that put yourself in that role, like that seat. If you have walked into church and no one, we're never going to be TikTok games locked. This is our little group. This is our little huddle.
That's right.
We want to always have a front door for people who come in. I'm an evangelist at heart, and it drives me crazy, the thought that someone might walk in and walk out and we've missed that opportunity. So we have those recurring big events to get those new people in. And then that immediately leads into our next Bible study season, where then they are going to be plugged into smaller groups.
Okay.
And so we're promoting that at these bigger events to plug them into the smaller groups, where then they have a woman that is their discipler who, I might be doing the big teaching, but they're then for most of the time at a table with other women who are various ages, various stages. If they need a grandma that they're from a city and they don't have family in town, we want them to make those connections where they're meeting women of all different ages and stages.
Right.
I love that. We did a conversation with Amy Jo Girardier that aired in November, and we talked about family and generations. And so I love that you just said they all sit at a table, different stages in life, different generations. I think that's so important. Okay, I'm going to ask kind of a hot button question.
Oh, not with me.
Okay. What do you do about cliques?
Oh,
because you said, we
good.
talked about community, and you said we're not, it's not going to just be us. We're going to invite new people in.
Love
How
that.
do you deal with that?
So I'm not afraid of a conversation.
Okay. I
But
kind of got that from you.
yeah. And so we will have certain women that I love, and they'll have their same women at their table over and over again. And we
Yeah.
do let women, when they're registering for Bible study, say, I want to be at this person's table.
Right,
But
because you want to be with your friends.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But one thing we do is we're always telling that table group leader, I need you to multiply, and I need you to find someone at your table who can lead next semester. So that's automatically taking someone out of that group who then will be a leader. If not, I'll have two groups that have all my leaders sitting together because they've been best friends for 10 years.
That's right. Yes.
And so we're always telling them ahead of time, we need you to find your replacement that is then going to become a new group next time.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then we will have to tell people, hey, y'all have been together for 3 years. I need this whole group could be leading by itself. I need to break you up. And some people will get, fussy with me, but when you give them the bigger picture of like, this is your opportunity to serve others instead of be served, they'll come around.
Yeah. That's good.
It's not always easy or fun.
It's not. Well, and I can see the advantage of having a group of women that have been together for a long time because there's a lot of trust built there. There's a lot of opportunity for vulnerability because they all know and trust each other. So maybe that's a different kind of group, though.
It does become that. So if I look back 10 years ago when it was me teaching 20 women,
Yeah.
those 20 women were all still best friends, and that's who we do birthday lunches together.
Yes.
So there's like probably 2 birthdays a month, and we do life together, but now they're all in their own ministry capacity, and they understand that time is not about them.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's about us serving.
That is so good. Such good advice.
Right.
Yeah.
And such a difference between coming together as friends and just being accountability partners
Yes,
or
yeah.
all of those things versus we are gathering together as a body during that big
Yes.
event and we serve and we use all of our
Yes.
gifts. That is not the time to go and share our deep, darkest secrets with
Yes.
the other person because there's 6 other people that are sitting at the table,
Yeah.
And so I think just having a different mindset and in terms of direction of what is the purpose of the events? What are the purposes
Right.
of the small groups? And then to think that through, I love that. And I hear a little bit about the way that biblical community, because you came to know the Lord
Yeah.
later on in life as opposed to those, and you may have come to know the Lord when you're little, I don't know.
No.
But your story plays that role of how you are so intentional about that community though for your women. I love the fact that like you're thinking through like every 3 months, we're going to have this welcome. And I was like, well, yes, because if you wait till next Christmas tea to invite these people where they feel welcome, well, they've already had to wait for a whole year.
Exactly.
Right. But now you're giving them every
Exactly.
opportunity. So in a small church, for those of you for those listeners who are in the smaller churches, what would you tell them in terms of how they would build community? Would they take some of those same things? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. And, because we are multi-site, we have a smaller church. We have a little campus that meets in a school on Sunday mornings, and they don't have a building. But what I love that they're doing there is our campus pastor's wife, she has a brunch in her home once a month, and we'll announce it kind of as like a women's gathering.
neat.
And I'll still go, and we'll have to rent a facility to do our big table once a quarter, but just that offering of hospitality. So she'll have 25 women in her home, and for that church, that's a big gathering.
Yeah.
And so she'll open her home for a brunch. Everyone brings something, which gives them a reason to show up.
Yes, that's right.
Everyone brings something, and then it's that same kind of thing that we're not waiting till the big Christmas tea, which we do have, to have a place for women to step into the ministry. We're always having something. And I think it's like finding your niche. Like this woman loves opening her home. And she can, and in that particular part of the city, most of the church lives in the same 3 neighborhoods around, and so they can just go to her house on a Saturday morning. I think it depends on, the church structure. Is there a building or not? But it doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive. Can we just get back to the good old potluck?
Yes.
I mean,
I love a potluck.
Can we just say how anointed a potluck is?
Yes, and amen.
And first of all, everyone has a job. Bring your great Aunt Susie's casserole. You will be praised for it. And we're not afraid of carbs. And let's just have a good old casserole. It's like,
I love it.
That's our clip. We're not afraid of carbs, Erin.
No, we're not afraid of carbs in women's ministry. Right?
I love it. That's so good. Okay, so you've talked a lot about your community. You mentioned you've got, birthday friends that you do lunch with, but I know a lot of leaders experience loneliness because it is hard to be vulnerable when you are leading women.
You're right.
It's really hard to find your group of women. Have you ever experienced a season of loneliness or walked with someone through that?
So let me back up for just a second. So I came to faith in Houston, Texas, where I was not a child. I was an adult, heard the gospel, radically transformed. And my first prayer after I come to Christ is, God, give me Christian friends. And because I had been immersed in a scene that was reveling in darkness. And so I knew if I was going to walk in the light, and I didn't have that language, I knew I needed to be surrounded by people who loved Jesus. God answered that prayer so abundantly that I was lavished with, I was in the largest singles ministry in the world. I didn't get married till I was 38. So I had, my poor husband, he had like 3 groomsmen. I had 14 bridesmaids. Like I was so gifted with a biblical family community, sisters, that I thought that's what everybody's experience was.
Okay.
And so when I got married and we packed the U-Haul to move me from Houston to San Antonio, I sobbed because it was like I was leaving home.
Oh, I bet.
And I had never looked for a church. I had always been in the same church. I'd never looked for a church. I had never not walked out my door and knew I was going to meet 10 friends at Target. I'd never not had it. And so I moved to San Antonio knowing no one but my husband and my 2 bonus children. Like I knew no one.
Okay.
And so it was, I think I'm passionate about the women who have to do that because now I'm starting from scratch. And so when God put us in this church, and I started having biblical friendships again, it was like I was drinking from a fire hose. Like, this is what I've missed. I've missed it so much. So I went through a season. It was like 3 years before we found our church. We visited churches, and I'd never had to do that before. And I'm like, these people don't preach the Bible. What's happening? Like I had never had a church look. And so when we finally found community, it was like, this is where life is. And so you just know that. And so, yes, loneliness for those 3 years. I mean, while it was a honeymoon period, I was so glad to be with my husband. I still had my best friends now lived, 3 hours away or, thankfully we could FaceTime or whatever, but I was having to learn how to rebuild that as an adult.
I think that's especially significant at that stage in your life.
Yes.
Because it's hard to make friends when you're, late 30s, 40s. Our life stage is just so different than when we were in college. And so I love hearing that. So you said you prayed for Christian friends. What else? What other pieces of advice would you give for leaders who are experiencing loneliness?
Well, I'm going to talk to leaders for number one. There just has to be intentionality. I talked about that I have these 2 women that are 25-year friendships. One was my mentor, the other was my best friend, and now we intentionally have a FaceTime once a month where we talk about, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is where I feel like the enemy's coming after me and my thoughts. This is where my flesh, I need to repent.
Right.
So we have these very frank conversations.
Okay.
But also, I just try to be with my women. I try to be as honest with the women in my ministry as I am with them. Like, hey, I am not perfect. This is where I'm relying on Jesus. This is where
Right.
I struggle in my flesh, so that
Right.
I don't have that dichotomy between ministry Marian
Okay.
and, real
Right.
Marian. Like,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I
Right.
think the women in my church would tell you, okay, Marian's pretty competitive. She's going to struggle in this area. Marian, they will probably know my sin struggles because I'm pretty transparent about them
That's great.
and where I need Jesus today, not just 25 years ago. I'm hopefully pretty honest.
That's good.
I love that transparency, that you have in terms of with the women that are in your ministry. It's so needed, as we think about this newer generation really desperately needing that,
Yeah.
but also finding those people that you can really be real with,
Right.
that you have that accountability. That is so key for us as leaders, as I'm even thinking about our theme, which thank you, Marian, for coming and doing a breakout at Forum. That whole being trustworthy
Yeah.
and being able to do that for our next generation. And so part of that being able to be trustworthy, or part of being able to be a leader, okay, that can still continually stand up, accountability. You mentioned that is really big.
It is.
How do you help your women to get that so they don't get to a point where we're lonely,
Yeah.
or we're hurting, or we have nowhere to go to? How do you build those friendships that lead up to where it's 20, 25 years? I think that's a huge struggle for a lot of leaders.
So my husband called me Barbara Walters on our first date because I want to get into the heart
Yeah.
and the deep and the dig of like what is actually going on at a heart level really quickly. And so because I am primarily the one who's writing the curriculum and writing the study and writing the table questions, we're not going to fluff here.
Okay.
And so I'm probably make people uncomfortable because
Okay.
I will write questions that are like, okay, so where did your pride rear its ugly head this week in your marriage?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I'm not going to let us talk about our favorite colors, although we want to talk about our favorite colors.
We do.
I'm going to really look at, okay, what is the text talking about? And this is not just here for us to have a big theological understanding. If theology is not practical and transformational, we're not doing it right. And so I'm going to intentionally craft questions that make us talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
And make us, because
vulnerable.
if we're not confessing our sins one to another, we will not be
Yes.
healed.
That's good.
Right.
And that is what these table times are about, is let's look at what the word says and how is the Holy Spirit going to take that and apply it in my life to make me more like Jesus. And we're part of that process.
Right.
By being honest and transparent and looking at another believer and saying, I want to love Jesus, but I don't love Jesus enough in this area. Will you pray for me? Or I love my pride more than I love Jesus in this area, and I'm just confessing it,
Right.
And so I'm probably getting in there and making that happen a
Yeah.
little bit because that's what helps me.
Right.
Is that
Well,
selfish? Because it helps me.
I think it's a great relational tool because I think about if I were in that situation and someone was very vulnerable in that moment, I would probably connect with them.
Right.
Right.
And I would think that's the kind of girl I want to be friends with,
Right.
and follow up with. Nobody connects or relates with fake, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So
Right.
when we're not willing to be vulnerable and be who we really are, nobody likes that. People feel more in competition with that. But if you're going to be vulnerable and just put it all out there, that's how we connect and form real gospel community.
Yeah. And it always surprises me when people tell me, if I go to speak somewhere, I can't believe you're so transparent. I'm like, why wouldn't we be if we actually think the blood of Jesus is the only thing that makes us righteous?
Right.
And that the only boast we have is in Jesus. I have nothing to prove, and I have no veneer to put on that you would think better of me.
Right.
I think our job is to all of us, just to show other people how much we are desperate for Jesus. So
Yeah.
why would we not be if we're tempted to not be? There's some lie of Satan that's telling us that we either have to prove something or be something to be loved by God, which is a lie. So of course we need to be transparent, because it's just like, I need Jesus as much as you do.
Amen.
Right.
That's it. That's true. Okay, so this has been a great conversation about just women's ministry and community. I want to end this conversation with the rapid fire.
Come on.
Okay, are you ready for it?
I think so. I tried not to look at these so I could be like,
oh, really?
truly.
Okay.
Right. But direct it that way, okay? not this way, because she'll do that sometimes. And I'm like,
Alicia, I'm probably going to pull you into this. Okay. So, coffee shop or living room, which one is the best place for an authentic conversation?
Living room.
For sure. In your home, right?
Well, and I think about the times in my mentor's living room, there were guttural sobs of like just brokenness and beauty. And I'm not going to do that in the coffee shop.
Right.
I mean, I might, but other people might not, I have guttural sob in many a place.
Yeah, same.
But I don't think that's going to happen for most people.
I think I've done the guttural sob on this podcast.
whoa.
I have.
I remember an airplane one day, and this man is just handing me tissue because I'm like wailing. And he's like, this dude was so awkwardly uncomfortable. I'm like, I have no shame.
What's one word that describes healthy community?
Risk.
Good.
Risk.
Really good word. Yeah.
I think it's like, first of all, I think so many people wait to be asked, and you got to risk. Just
go first.
Go first. And you also have to risk telling you're sick and sinful.
Right.
Because it's not any worse than someone else's. But I think just if people were willing to risk a little bit more, I think that would help build.
I think so too. What's the most common barrier to women connecting in the church?
Childcare.
Ooh.
I put in my line item budget for all my campuses, we're paying for childcare. And because that's the ministry to that mom who would probably not be there otherwise.
Yeah, that's right. What's the book of the Bible you turn to most often when you're teaching on community?
I love the commands in Ephesians on the second half of the do's of, how we apply the gospel in everyday life. And I think if one of the things I've seen destroy community more than anything else is unforgiveness and bitterness.
Wow.
And we're not quick to obey God in the areas of being quick to forgive.
Right.
And we allow petty things to drive division.
Yes.
And so I probably have, put towards Paul's epistles on how we stay unified through preferring one another, forgiving one another, bearing with others.
Yeah.
People are not perfect.
Yeah.
They will disappoint you. Forgiveness is for offenses, but there's part of us that just has to bear with annoyances.
Yes.
And just
walk in
good.
forgiveness.
yeah, walk in grace. You're not perfect.
That's right.
Give that to somebody else,
That's right. What's the hardest part about building community as a leader?
Within, if you wear a title, I think you have to represent an organization. And so you might have all kinds of opinions, but you got to keep your mouth shut, right? And you want to honor honor the people around you. And so you can't engage in the questioners and the naysayers and all this kind of stuff. You just have to hold a respectful posture and honor your leadership.
Yes.
And so, and not getting into the gossip and all of those things, and modeling for other people how to respect the people that God's put in position. And so I think that's one of the struggles that women in leadership have, because they hear the complaints or they hear the questions. And so you want to answer those, but you also have to walk the line of, hey, I have to honor the elders and the people God's put in place and trust what God has led them to do. But at the same time, hear someone who that decision may have affected them negatively and honor her feelings, but also meet that with truth.
This rapid fire question is going to turn into not so rapid because I want to talk about this for a second.
Okay.
Because I have seen women leaders use that tool of, I guess it's gossip really, to connect. Like it almost builds community with the people they're leading if they commiserate in a way.
Right.
And I love what you just said because I think that really guards us. It warns us.
Yeah. I think for me, I've had to be very conscious of the fact that my words have weight.
Yes.
My posture towards the men who I am in ministry with, how I respond to what they decide, what they do, will affect how my women in my church respond.
Yes.
And there may be many decisions that I may have done differently, but my submission to the Lord is also submitting to where what He's doing through His wisdom to have elders and all the things that He's put in place. And there's 7 things the Lord hates. Remember in Proverbs, and one of them is divisiveness.
Oh, that's right. It is divisive.
If we're divisive, and Jesus is about His church, and if we're divisive, we're not on the right team.
That's a good word. I'm just remembering a story I'll share, and you may have one too. And Alicia, I'm sure you do. Years ago, my church made a decision to change our service times. And at that time, I was leading the worship team for the early service. So we were moving from 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Eventually it changed to 8:30, so it wasn't quite as bad. But it was a significant effect on those volunteers. And when we got that word, I was upset. I was very upset about it. I knew it was really going to gravely affect the team I led. And there were a lot of repercussions. And so the night that I had to go into that rehearsal and tell that team what was happening, I anticipated that they would not be happy. And so I told them the news, and then I walked over to the door and I shut the door and I said, you can say whatever you want to say in this room to me right now. Express your feelings. I didn't let them know that I was upset. I just said, I want to hear what's on your heart. But when we walk out of this room, we leave it all here. And I will represent you to leadership. And so that went really well in that particular case. Because
I'm gonna borrow that.
Yeah. Because they
So
needed to express what they were feeling. And they kind of needed to do it together, and I didn't want them to go off and do it.
That's good.
I wanted them to do it with me. Let me hear what you have to say. Let me hear your concerns, and I'll take it back to leadership and let them know how you feel. Yeah. And it gave them a place. They felt heard, and they got to express.
Yeah. I think it's also, if we remember, so much of our discipling of people is not just in the Bible studies we write or the 30-minute lesson we preach. They're watching. How do you submit to a decision you don't like?
Yes.
How do you forgive someone in your church? People are watching that, and that is probably as much discipleship as anything else.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Right.
Do you have a story too, Alicia?
No, I'm still just stuck.
It's okay.
Like
Barbara Walters wants to go, why are you stuck?
I just love the way that you handled that, though.
I know,
Angie.
that's amazing.
It's such a needed thing for us as leaders to hear that. Like, please give a safe space for people to process these things, not just like, I'm going to throw it out there and then walk away. And then so then they
drop a bomb, hope they deal with it
Right.
okay.
Or to be your flesh could have been, I want them to like me. And so I'm going to join in the
Yes.
Right.
but to not decisions are hard in a church. They're hard.
Yes.
And to believe the best about the people who are making them, that they're just trying to serve the Lord.
That's
They're
right.
not trying to move someone's cheese and like make their life horrible. They're not trying to do that. And
That's right.
sometimes God permits things that make us uncomfortable and have to adjust because he's in the big picture doing something in all of us,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's very hard.
It is very hard. And I think it's okay to even say to your team you're leading, hey, this is going to affect us.
Right.
And this is going to be hard, but we're going to be okay. Like we'll pull together and we'll make it through.
And giving grace to the people who can't make the change.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
You know,
That's a good
the woman
point.
that has a 6-month-old, like she can't do it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there's someplace else that you're supposed to be right now. And in the beautiful, big sovereignty of God, he's working out a billion details at once for every person. And so there's a reason, you know?
That's right. Okay, I'm going to give you the last word, Marian. This is back to rapid fire. Here's our last one. What's the most rewarding part about building community?
You know, I have 2 examples. One personally, I know in any season that I walk through, I am a phone call away from women who are going to love me really well and who are going to war the heavens down if there's any situation. You know, we talk about in the armor of God, that shield of faith was meant to be worn together. It is only meant to be connected to other people. And so I've experienced that power so many times in my life. Just the power of the body coming together. And I want for every woman to have that circle where your kid's walking through some stupidity, you have an army over you.
Yeah.
Your marriage is in trouble, you have an army over you. So I want that. But there's a sweet older woman in our church right now, and she had moved here from Seattle, and she felt like the Lord told her to come to our church, and she came in. She knew no one, and she did the process. She came to the big event. She's in the small group. She's now in this community of women, and she's gone through some health things. She's a widow. She has no children. She has been so cared for, taken to her doctor's visits, meals brought to her, and she remarked to me the other day, she goes, I am 80 years old, and I've never had this.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's the win. That's the win right there. That she's experienced what God wants for all of us. And in her, last, decades has experienced this beauty of the body that's taking care of her, and I think that's the win.
That's the win.
Wow.
Alicia, I loved talking with Marian. I feel like I've known her.
I know.
I know.
She is so good. I remember the first conversation I had with her, and I think we could have gone on for hours. Okay.
Absolutely. I totally feel that way with her.
Right.
And who better to talk about community? I mean,
Right.
so good. I was really inspired. And I know as you guys have been watching or listening to this episode, you probably want to hear more from Marian. She has a brand new Bible study that just released with Lifeway Women. We mentioned it at the top of the show, but it's called Anchored, and it's available now. All you need to do is go to lifeway.com to find it, or you can find it really anywhere you buy books.
But Angie, there's also other places that you can hear about Marian. I mean, she has her own podcast
That's right.
called This Redeemed Life.
That's right.
So I think if ladies want to hear more, just to go on and look into the podcast.
Listen, she's not new to this. She knows what
Right,
she's doing.
right. For sure.
Another great resource about building community is Together by Ben Mandrell. It's a Bible study that you can do with your whole church or just with a small group, and it is so good. There's a section in that Bible study where Ben takes some time to unpack that scripture where the friends rip the roof off and bring their friend to Jesus. And so I love that Marian mentioned that today, and you can get a deep dive in that with the Together Bible study.
But Angie, do you remember we also did a podcast with Emily
That's
Dean
right.
on community?
That's right.
And so I think if the ladies have missed that episode or that podcast, I would encourage you to look up that podcast with Emily Dean on community.
Well,
That would
and
be
we will link it in the show notes because we want it to be easy for you guys to find. I know what you're doing right now. You're driving, you're in the car line, you're folding laundry, and you don't have time to go stop and look something up. So it's all in the show notes for you. All of it is linked there. And we just want to thank you for listening. I want to encourage you. Maybe you want to share this episode with your women's ministry leader at your church, maybe a Sunday school leader, or maybe just a friend. We believe that the Holy Spirit is prompting you to do that. So if you will share this episode, it's the best way to make sure that people find out about Marked and that the word that we're sharing here gets out. So thank you for doing that, and we will meet you back here next week.
Let's go!
Marked is a production of Lifeway Podcast, executive produced by Angie Elkins, produced by Aaron Franklin, and engineered by Donnie Gordon. It's recorded in the Lifeway Podcast studio in Brentwood, Tennessee, and edited by Caleb Hoopengarner, with art by Lauren Irvin and music by Raven McKelvey and Robert Elkins. I'm your host, Angie Elkins, along with Alicia Wong. If you want to join in on the conversation, you can always find us on social media at Lifeway Women. Today's show notes will be posted at lifewaywomen.com/marked. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a review. Meet us back here next week.
We're diving in to Marked. Let's go! Life on the go, and we're ready to grow. Get up, get out, get on the way. Can't wait to hear what they're gonna say. Hope for everyone. Ministry to motherhood. Come as you are, engage your heart. We know just where to start. We're marked by grace and by mercy. We're marked with hope for eternity. Ready for some weekly encouragement. Turn it on and up and I'm going in. We're marked by peace and by unity.